Hey y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glace, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, and all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin-baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had. Warning, Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast should be for listeners that are 18 years of older, as each episode may contain strong adult language and descriptions of acts of violence or of a sexual nature that were told to me by the victims of the crimes or the criminals who perpetrated the crimes against the victim. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. Before we get started today, I'm going to give some more shout-outs, y'all, to the fans and our moderators and administrators, or what I call the dream team of our private page or group on Facebook. I want to thank you all, especially our patron members who have been so awesome. And this week they'll be receiving the first mini episode, which is available to Tier 2 members, and the first bonus episode, which is available to Tier 3 members. So we've been working hard on that and getting it out. And also our merchandise is in the store. Our first shirts came in, and we have coffee mugs and vehicle stickers and bumper stickers and magnets, all that good stuff. And we'll have more designs and colors on the shirts in later this week. I just want to say thank you, and I'm due to give a couple more shout outs for our newest patron members, one of which is Miss Rachel Franzen, who's one of our longtime fans, and she's actually the fan who started our private group on Facebook. Thank you, Rachel. You're awesome. Rachel's given me a lot of advice, y'all, and help. She's a big true crime fan and now a patron supporter, and we appreciate you, Rachel. Miss Jackie Montgomery is our new patron member, and we appreciate you, Miss Jackie. You're awesome. Thank you for the support. We appreciate it. And Miss Melanie Shepard. Miss Melanie, thank you for becoming a patron member. We're Tier 3. We appreciate it. You're awesome, and I love you. And Miss Sam Cross is also a Tier 3 member, and Miss Sam, really appreciate you. And y'all, Miss Sam has also been instrumental and valuable to me, giving me some advice and messaging with me on things. She is a big true crime fan also, and she even tells me she'll be in New Orleans for CrimeCon, and y'all know that Real Life, Real Crime will be there. We'll be at CrimeCon in New Orleans, and we'll have a booth set up. We won't be on Podcasters Row, but we will have a booth set up where we'll have merchandise, and I'll be there to do meet and greets and what have you. And any of our fans that show up, we're going to have a dinner or go out and take you to some of the local places, not tourist traps. Take you out and maybe wine you and dine you. And Miss Carrie Stokes. Miss Carrie, thank you for becoming a patron member, and we appreciate it. And Miss Brandy Elliott, we appreciate you. Thank you, Miss Brandy. And Miss Brandy has messaged several times with good information, and we really, really appreciate it. So everyone else, all our other patron members that I've given the shout-outs to before, we appreciate you so much. And I'm so very thankful, y'all. We've reached 18,000 downloads now, and it's just amazing. We're in 55 countries. Some of them I've never even heard of. One day I'll do a list of them because it's really amazing. 55 countries across the world that people are listening to Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. So, but we couldn't do it without y'all. Y'all sharing and telling other people about us, and I love it. I get to watch the numbers grow daily, and I'm like a crackhead checking the stats. It's so awesome to see, and I get so excited, and y'all motivate me to really do it. And I hope you enjoy the podcast, and if you don't, send me a message. I'm always up for constructive criticism, but I appreciate everything. Love you to death. So with that being said, we're going to begin today's episode, which is entitled Overkill. On April the 21st, in 2005, I was working as a detective for the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, and I was on the night shift. Now, the night shift during the week consisted of two detectives who would come in at 1 o'clock, and you would get off at 6 o'clock the next morning, and then the day shift would pick it up. So I love working a night shift. That's where all the action was. It only happened once a month. It was 1 week a month that we covered it. And I never minded it. That's when all the blood, generally, when all the blood hits the ground and the bodies drop and stuff like that, right? So I was working it, and generally my partner and I would split it up. Like he would cover anything from like 1 to 6 and then go 10-7 or off duty around 7 p.m. and then I would cover it from 7 to 6 in the morning. And if anything major happened, we would call each other out, like a homicide or whatever. But it had to be pretty major. I mean, if I was going to call them out in the middle of the night, then it would have to be pretty much a homicide or a whodunit on something. But this night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, I got a call from dispatch, actually a page from dispatch, and I called in, and they said, hey, you have a victim at North Oaks Hospital in Hammond, Louisiana, which is one of the towns that's in one parish over in the opposite direction from Baton Rouge, in Tangipahoa Parish. And at the time, Livingston Parish didn't have a hospital, and now they have several, but we would either have to go to our emergency victims at the hospitals in Baton Rouge, emergency rooms in Baton Rouge, or generally anything that happened on the east side of the parish, they would transport them to the closest hospital, which was North Oaks in Hammond, Louisiana. So they said, you've got a victim in the emergency room at North Oaks who was savagely beat with a beer bottle, and he's all messed up, and you need to get over there. So I went, and I'm not going to say the guy's name because he was married at the time, and you'll understand why in a minute. But so I get there, I go to the ER. They knew who I was. I'd been over there enough times, whether the night shift. So I badged my way in, and I said, hey, I'm here to see my victim of a beating. They said, yeah, well, they're working on him right now in the room. You can go in. And so I go into the room, and there's a doctor and some nurses, and this white male, probably 40 years old, is on the table, and he is beat to shit, and his face is all messed up, right? They split. I mean, you could see skull. They were stitching them up. You could see skull, and there was blood everywhere. As you know, or maybe you don't know, head wounds bleed more than anything. Even a small cut to the head bleeds more than anywhere, generally more than anywhere else on the body, unless you hit an artery. This guy, he looked rough, right? But he was awake, and he was moaning, etc. And I waited. Once they got done stitching him up, and then they were going to take him for a CAT scan and all that, and X-rays and what have you. But while they were waiting to do that or have somebody come to get him, I introduced myself. I said, "Hey, I'm Detective Overton with the Sheriff's Office. Can you tell me what happened tonight?" He said, "Man, I was at the Canal Bank Club." Now, y'all, the Canal Bank Club is another one of those old-time swamp bars, but it's been a swamp bar before the area where it's located became full of millionaires. Okay, sits on the Diversion Canal, right at the foot of the bridge that crosses in between Livingston Parish and Ascension Parish. And the Diversion Canal is a long, wide, man-made canal. It's probably, 10 or 15 miles long, that runs from where it ties into the Amite River down to the Blind River. And what it was built for was when the overflow from floodwaters come down the Amite River, instead of flooding everything down here, the diversion would help divert the water away from the Amite River to the Blind River, which would get it quicker to Lake Maurepas and help alleviate some of the flooding. Anyway, so what happened when they built this long straight canal was eventually people came in and bought it up, and it's probably some of the most expensive homes in Livingston Parish. Like a small quarter-acre lot sells for $250,000, and they're all $1 million homes. Coincidentally, the original owner of Popeye's Fried Chicken from the Christopher Pell story that owned all the Popeyes, Al Copeland, even had a summer home there because it's made for big boats and get to the lake really fast, Lake Maurepas. But there's a lot of bars on the water, and the canal bank was there before the Diversion Canal was made famous. And it also has a boat launch next door to it and a huge gravel parking lot where people park the trucks and trailers where they launch their boats. But it's an old-time bar. It's not a young crowd or anything like that, not even a big crowd, but it's a mainstay. It's been there forever, longer than I've been in Livingston Parish. So anyway, he says he was at Canal Bank. I think it was a Thursday night. And he said, "Man, I was sitting at the bar drinking." He said there were only 3 other guys in the bar. It was dead. It was quiet. There was nothing going on. And he said around 11 o'clock, the door opens, and this beautiful little blonde lady walks in. He said, I'm talking about, she was just smoking hot. And everybody turns and looks at her. And she walks in, and she looks around, and she looks at all the guys sitting at the bar. And then she looked at him. They made eye contact, and he said she came straight up to me, and she didn't say a word. She crawled up on my lap and started French kissing me. He said she was all over me. She was like attacking me, and I was like, man, I hit the lotto, right? This girl's super hot, and there wasn't another female in the bar. And she's just crawling all over me and making out with me. He said, so we were making out, and we had a couple of drinks, and she just kept kissing me and was feeling me up, and I was feeling her up. Then the bar closes. They did last call, and everybody left. The other guys left, and then they were the last two to go out. And he said, when we got outside, she said, I have my golf cart here. Let's sit on the golf cart and drink some beer. And he was like, why do you have a golf cart here? And she said, well, I live over on the island, and you can only get the access to the island by golf cart. Now, that is on the opposite side of the Diversion Canal. The first mile or two, a couple miles on that side is still considered Livingston Parish. And you take the road to the left as soon as you go across the bridge into what becomes Ascension. You take the first road to the left or to the right, and that's that road that runs along the Diversion, and the houses are all considered Livingston Parish. So if you take a left, you follow that straight road past all these $1 million homes, and it dead ends where there's a little store, And then there's a bridge that goes over onto an island, which has smaller homes, but almost all of them were $200,000 or whatever. They were like 2 bedrooms, but basically kind of like camps on the water. But there were a few that were there from like 20 plus years ago that were old. Maybe, I think there were 3 of them that were in the old style. But anyway, she told the guy that she came from her house on the island. And he said, so they're on the cart and they're making out. And let me describe the canal bank to you real quick. It's a big old red building, and it's raised up because the water comes up a lot, right? And that parking lot floods on a regular basis because of the boat launch. So it's probably raised up 4 feet, and they have lattice work. They had white lattice. Hey ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through: premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone supporting supplement, it's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC. Hey y'all, let me tell you about Mochi. Mochi is a telehealth platform that connects patients seeking medication-based weight loss treatment with board-certified doctors and dietitians to help them determine the best treatment options to accomplish that goal. Mochi's program is completely virtual, meaning you can access their services anywhere in the United States, and you will be meeting with their team online. You deserve doctors that listen. Mochi is dedicated to providing holistic, patient-centered care that prioritizes overall well-being with the goal of transforming how weight management is approached. Mochi Health takes a holistic approach to weight loss that includes visit with board-certified doctors, nutrition consultations, and medications delivered to your door. Science-backed medications including GLP-1s like Ozempic and generic compound versions, affordable and accessible regardless of insurance coverage. With Mochi, their dietitians work hand in hand with your medication to create personalized nutrition plans that fit your lifestyle. Reach your weight loss goals with science-backed, FDA-approved GLP-1 medications and support from real doctors and guidance from registered dietitians, and help with making easy and sustainable changes to achieve results. Y'all have seen this. My wife has done it. My brother-in-law has done it. One of my best friends is doing it, and it really is an amazing process that works. So get started at joinmochi.com and use code RLRC to receive $40 off. That's joinmochi.com and use code RLRC to receive $40 off and let Mochi help change your life. Work that covered underneath the porch so you couldn't see underneath the building. And he said the golf cart was parked in front of the lattice work, and that's where they were making out. And he said they were really getting into it. I mean, pretty much having sex with her clothes on, and all of a sudden she stopped. And he said she looked up at him. She had blue eyes, bluish green eyes, and she started crying. And then she started sobbing. And he said, honey, what's wrong? And she said, my husband died. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. He said, when did that happen? I'm so sorry for your loss. She said, it happened tonight, motherfucker. And then she took the beer bottle she was drinking with and just beat the shit out of him. And he said, man, she started hitting me, and I don't know if I blacked out or whatever. She hit me 4 or 5 times. He said, and I was sitting in the driver's seat of the golf cart. My foot hit the gas, and I drove through the lattice work and smashed the golf cart underneath the canal bank. I was like, holy shit. And so I said, dude, do you have any idea who she is? He said, no. And he said, but I'm telling you, you'll know her when you see her. If you give me a picture, because she's smoking hot, beautiful. So at this time, we have what we call an aggravated second-degree battery. In the state of Louisiana, there is no attempted murder. Aggravated second-degree battery is the same thing as attempted murder. And, okay, Louisiana is under the Napoleonic Code of Law, where the rest of the United States, a battery is when you threaten someone, and assault is where you actually do the physical harm. In Louisiana, it's reversed. In Louisiana, a battery is where you do the physical harm or the unwanted touching, and the assault is where you threaten someone. But aggravated second degree, what made it aggravated battery is that she used a beer bottle. What made it second degree battery is if you lose consciousness from the beating, or you have to seek medical attention, or you receive some type of disfigurement from the beating. So you can have a second degree battery where you lose consciousness or have to seek medical attention or receive disfigurement. Or you can have the aggravated second-degree battery, which is all of them, right? And this guy had all of it. He obviously was going to have a lot of scars. He obviously was in the hospital. He knew if he was going to have brain surgery. Hell, but we didn't know if he was going to live. You don't know that until they come back and say if his brain's swelling and his skull is fractured or whatever. But I can tell you, he took a beating. So I took his information. I didn't call my partner out on it because I didn't have a suspect, but I went to the canal bank, and it's probably 30 minutes away, and I pull up, and sure enough, their golf cart is just busted through the lattice work, jammed underneath Canal Bank Bar's porch, and there was blood everywhere. So I recovered the broken beer bottle for DNA evidence, fingerprints, etc., and photographed it and took samples and called a tow truck and had it towed out, and that's it. At the end of my shift, I went home, I filed the report, and I was going to check on the guy's status when I woke up that evening and went 10-8 or back on duty. Let me clarify just a little bit. I mean, I didn't just go home and not work the case, but I talked to the doctor before I left, and he said that I think he's going to live. And I think it's more cosmetic probably than anything, but they were going to observe him for brain swelling or what have you, and he said they wouldn't know anything for several hours anyway. So it's not like I had anything to go on, right? I didn't know who was in the canal bank at the time. It's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. Everything down there is closed. There was no way to get onto the island to find out which house this girl allegedly said she came from, if she even came from there, although the golf cart really was a big tip. I mean, I know they use golf carts exclusively on that side of the river on the island. So it wasn't like I didn't care. It's just that there was nothing I could do at that time. Now, I made the day shift aware, and I made Stan Carpenter, who was the chief of detectives at the time, aware of the situation, and told him I'd be on it whenever I got up, and we went back 10-8 that afternoon. So I came out early. I woke up and got with my partner. Was Detective Brad Trull. And Brad was a newer detective. He was very, very sharp, though. We had worked together in uniform patrol and then on the special response team before I got off of that because of my detective duties. And just a great guy, super smart, and pleasure to work with. So Brad and I go to the canal bank. Didn't even open, right, until I think 2 o'clock. But so we get together and we go down there, and I looked at it again, took pictures of the damage of everything during the daylight, and I talked to the person that was there at the canal bank, the manager, and the bartender that was working there that night before wasn't even in yet. I called them, and we were going to go talk to the bartender when there was a call over the radio of a 10-7 in River Highlands, which is the island where the golf carts are. And they already had units on scene, uniform patrol on scene. So we headed that away, and then Stan Carpenter called and said, y'all just sit tight and we'll see what's going on. We don't know anything yet. And we already have whoever the day detective was real close by, even closer than us. And they got on scene. And so we just continue to look at the canal bank, and then we were en route to go talk to the bartender. And then we got the call back that it was a 10-7. It was a dead body in one of the cabins on the island, and they said that it had been stabbed numerous times, many times. And what happened was the victim, it was a white male, the victim's brother hadn't heard from him all day, so he went to check on him at his cabin / camp, whatever you want to call it, and found the victim in the bed with the covers pulled up on him, up like to his neck. And it was obvious to the brother that the victim's coloration was off, and then he pulled the covers back, and he was just able to see that it had been stabbed many times. Of course, the brother freaked out and called 911, and they responded. So it was a little bit of a logistics deal, right? Getting onto the island, it's not like you could drive your unit back there or get the Louisiana State Police Crime Lab big bus back there. So this one was going to take a little bit longer to work than others. But then when I called Stan, I said, hey, man, you remember what I told you about aggravated second-degree battery victim we had at the hospital? He said, yeah. And I said, the girl that did it was on a golf cart, said she came from the island and that her husband had died that night. He was like, well, it's obvious it's going to be connected, so we're going to start working it up. So we called everybody out and got together. Then, of course, the coroner had to come. The State Police Crime Lab had to come and process the scene. Again, at the time, we didn't have our own crime scene unit. And the victim was identified as Russell Perry, and that was the man that was found in his bed, covered up by his brother. And the detectives on the scene interviewed the brother and asked him who he thought it could be, etc. And the brother stated that Perry had been living with Rhonda Lambert, and he described her as a small, 5 foot, nothing inch, petite blonde with blue eyes. And he said they had been living together and she wasn't there. So they called us with that information, and we called the radio room and had them run her. Or she's supposed to be from Mississippi also. He didn't know where in Mississippi, but we ran her, and she came back with an NCIC, or the National Crime Information Computer, hit out for probation and parole out of the state of Mississippi. And it said, the bottom of the paper said, warning, if you come into contact with this suspect, she can be very violent. Now, that's kind of unusual to have that, and I've run thousands of names, right? But very seldom do you see that specific warning. So by the time they got done working the crime scene and everything, we all met up, and all the detectives and Stan Carpenter, the chief, and then we had already printed up photos of Rhonda Lambert, and we were getting a game plan together. Basically, we decided it was a Friday night, and we knew all the local bars would be active now, and we decided to go cruise the local bars, not only looking for her, but to talk to people and see if anybody had witnessed her. Because when she left Canal Bank, she left on foot, and it's obvious that somebody picked her up, and I mean, there's nowhere to go, right? I mean, it was a long ways to the island from Canal Bank, and she didn't go back there. We know that. So there's two things my mama always said you never have to go far to find in South Louisiana, and that's a bar and a church, and that's the truth, right? So we hit all the swamp bars, and we were going from bar to bar showing pictures of Rhonda Lambert, and we went into one of them, the dock, and one of the guys at the bar I said, hey, I'm Detective Overton. We're looking for this lady. Have you ever seen her before? He said, hell yeah, I saw her last night. He said, man, I was at the Canal Bank Club, and I was sitting there getting my drink on, and there's no girls in the place, and this super fine girl walks in, and she looks all around, and then she made a beeline for this guy at the bar and just got on top of him and attacked him. He said she was just sticking her tongue down his throat and just rubbing his crotch and going all over him. And he said, man, Sheriff, I thought, man, I sure would like to have me some of that monkey. And I told him, I said, no, sir, you wouldn't like to have any of that. And then she's a suspect in a murder and another, attempted murder, if you will. But we didn't find her. But what we did do is Brad Trull and I had a 6-pack made with Rhonda Lambert's photo in it. And a 6-pack, y'all, is just like you see in the movies. It's a photo lineup. In the Louisiana State Police computer program that they use now is amazing. They they run the known photo of the suspect and they put it in with 5 other photographs, but the computer picks the other 5 photographs based off of facial recognition software. And I'm telling you, some of them, I know who the bad guy is, and these pictures that they pick out are so close it's almost impossible to tell. Towards the end of the night shift, when we got the 6-pack, we went to the hospital, North Oaks, and showed it to the guy that she'd beat at Canal Bank. And when we showed it to him, he immediately picked her out of the lineup. And you show him the lineup, so before you give it to him, you say, hey, look, I'm going to show you a lineup. The person that did the crime against you may or may not be in the lineup, and I don't want you to guess at anything. I only want you to say, if you recognize the person, I only want you to say it if you're for sure, and so sure that you would be able to get on the stand in a court of law and swear on the oath that this is the person that did it to you. Well, we showed it to him. Immediately he picked her out, and he said, no, this is her, I'll never forget it, this is her. So based off that information, we had a warrant for aggravated second-degree battery drawn up for Rhonda Lambert's arrest. Actually, I'm sure, I can't remember exactly, but I'm sure we probably called Tina Stafford, our secretary, out. She would come out on any big case in the middle of the night. She was the world's best at typing up warrants and wording them right and everything else. And then we had to bring it to a judge and get it signed. So we'd have something, if we found her, that we could arrest her and then detain her, and the detectives could question her about the homicide. So we got the warrant signed, and then the next day comes along, and it's the weekend, and so we're following different leads and stuff, and nothing's panning out, but Brad and I are back on duty. The night shift, when you're on the night shift, when the weekend comes, everybody else is off, and you and your partner split it. One of you takes the day part, and one of you takes the night, unless something like this happened. So we were working together, and I told Brad, I said, you know what? Somebody picked her up, right? And she had to leave on foot. There's nowhere to go. It's swamp, except for the big homes all up and down the diversion canal. On the side of the river where the canal bank was, and immediately across the bridge, there's a straight street that runs to the left back to where the island is, where somebody killed Mr. Perry. And you take it to the right. Again, it's still Livingston Parish, that one street, and it's homes that line the water. I said, let's go over there and just do some good old-fashioned police work and knock on doors and see if somebody saw her that night walking or may have picked her up, etc. Also, we wanted to look and see if they had any cameras that covered the Canal Bank parking lot. Maybe we could get some actual video of the aggravated second-degree battery. A lot of the homes on the water down there have cameras where they can watch the waterway for security reasons, some, I guess, to watch the boats go by or whatever. Sometimes the burglaries of those homes.
Hey, y'all. You want to set your child up for success? Is your child struggling with a specific subject or need help with the subject? Is your child ahead, not getting challenged enough in class? Well, IXL Learning is an online learning program that enriches your homeschool curriculum. It offers practice in math, English, language arts, science, and social studies while adapting to each child, meeting them where they are. Plus, IXL encourages students to become curious and empowers them to choose how to learn. Look, we homeschool our son. No doubt about it. He's more of a visual learner, and we use IXL, and Cindy teaches him, and there are so many different benefits to the program. It adapts to exactly what he needs in different areas. So IXL is the perfect supplement to your homeschool curriculum. IXL offers interactive practice problems, educational games, lessons, and video tutorials for every topic you're teaching at home. It's easy to use, time-saving. Everything on IXL is organized by grade, subject, topic, and subtopic, making it simple to find activities for the exact skills you're covering. IXL offers instant feedback and explanations of new topics as kids use the program. Kids can explore any topic in any grade level. They aren't forced into a single learning path like they are on other programs. If you're homeschooling your child because they were falling behind or because they were too far ahead like our son, IXL is a great program to help them get the exact support they need. Kids love IXL's positive feedback awards and educational games. IXL is trusted by 15 million students worldwide and has proven to improve performance in over 75 scientific research studies. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And Real Life, Real Crime listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/today. Visit IXL.com/today to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price. And don't forget, Real Life, Real Crime listeners get 20% off. Y'all, we really do use this product and it's been a godsend. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts that spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of an LSU Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdowns scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
Homes would occur by people pulling up in a boat when they knew the people weren't home, and they would go in from the riverside, from the diversion canal side, and do the burglary where people would most of the time leave the doors open. So we went over there for twofold: knock on doors, see if anyone's seen her, and also look at the area for cameras directly across and diagonally across from the canal bank, just trying to get lucky, basically. And we going door to door, and we come to about, 7 or 8 houses down and kind of diagonally across from canal bank. And we were talking, everybody else we've shown the flyer to, if you will, the picture of Rhonda Rose Lambert. Nobody had seen her, and we get to this one house, and it's a big house, beautiful home, and there's a new white F-150 truck, and it had a construction company name on it. And we knocked on the door, and a guy comes to the door, and he immediately set off my spidey senses, if you will. When he opened the door and he saw us, he put himself in the doorway and kind of pulled the door to him where you couldn't see in behind him. And 98.5% what I did for a living back then was read people, and still today with the polygraphs, etc. And I have hundreds of thousands of hours of interview and interrogation, and I'm at the point where I don't even need the polygraph instrument anymore. Anyway, we introduced ourselves. Hey, I'm Detective Overton. We're working on a case, and we're looking for this lady. And I showed him the picture, and he didn't look at it for a quarter of a second, and he handed it back to me and said, never seen her. And I was like, okay, here we go. And Brad, I knew he was thinking the same thing, right? And so I told him, I said, well, do you live here alone? Is there anybody else that we could ask that they've seen it? He said, no, I'm going through a divorce, and I live here by myself. Okay. I said, so there's nobody inside of your residence, right? And he said, no, there's nobody inside. And he said, why would you say that? I said, because, I mean, you're like standing in the doorway like you think we're going to sack your house or something, right? And I don't have the SWAT team behind me. And then he realized he was being defensive, and he kind of stood back a little bit. And I said, are you sure you haven't seen this girl before? He said, I've never seen her before in my life. And I said, well, let me tell you something. I said, I'm going to advise you your Miranda rights. I said, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to and during question. If you can't afford one, a court will appoint one for you. I said, do you understand your rights? He said, but am I under arrest? I said, certainly not. I said, I just want to advise you your Miranda rights before I talk to you any further, because now I'm going to ask you a couple questions. And if you lie to me, we're going to have an issue. I said, I'm going to ask you one more time. Have you ever seen this girl? He said, no, I haven't seen her. I said, so you didn't run across her Thursday night late, maybe walking down the road or something? He said, no. I said, were you here Thursday night at your residence? He said, I was here all night. I said, you never left? He said, nope. I came in from work and never left, etc. I said, sir, this is a homicide investigation and an attempted murder investigation. I said, if you have knowledge of her, you're not going to get in trouble. I know that you didn't help her committing the first two crimes. I said, but it seems like you're being really defensive, and I just get the feeling that you're not telling me the truth. He said, well, I'm not talking to you anymore, and I haven't never seen her. I said, all right. And he pretty much slammed the door in her face. And so I knocked on the door again. He said, what do you want? And I said, I just want to tell you, if you see me again, I said, you have two choices. You should either take off running or immediately turn around and put your hands behind your back. He said, what are you talking about? I said, because if you see me again, I'm going to have a warrant for your arrest for obstruction of justice for lying to me. He said, I'm not lying to you. I said, I believe you are, and I know that you are. I said, but if I come back, I'll have evidence and I'll have proof of it. And he slammed the door on me. So I looked at Brad and said, look, dude, we got something here. We got to figure out what it is. And Brad said, let's check the houses across the street and see if they have any cameras. And we got lucky, man. The one directly across the street, his house, this guy's house, was on the diversion canal, faced the house that we found the cameras on was across from his on the swamp side, not the diversion canal side. And it had cameras, and they were facing the street, and they're facing this guy's house, clear as day, but there was nobody home. So we left a card, and we went on and knocked on more doors looking for cameras and everything. And coming to find out, about a couple hours later, we get a call from the homeowner that lived across the street from the guy. So Brad and I go back to his house, and we tell him, hey, look, we're working a homicide, and we see you have cameras, and we know the girl that did the homicide left on foot, and she may have come down your street that night. I said, do you mind if we look at your cameras to see if your cameras are working, to see if we can see anything? I said, we'll fast forward through it. It won't take that long. And he said, sure, come on in. It was a real nice guy, real nice home. And we go in and playing it back his camera system. And we went to Brad did it because he was the more technical savvy, younger than me, and with the computers and stuff. But he fast forwarded to the camera that was covering the guy's house. That's the one we were watching, right? And the guy gets home from work at like 6:30 in the evening, and then guess what? He leaves like at 8 something. So we know his first lie was that he was home all night, and then he was gone for a long time. And then about like 2:30 a.m. in the morning, his truck pulls back in, and he gets out, and a short person, you couldn't, it wasn't, the lighting wasn't great, but you could tell a short person got out of the passenger seat, and they went inside his house. Lie number 2, right? He said that there was hadn't been anybody at the house, and he'd stayed there by himself. He'd been home all night alone. And so fast forward to, it was actually that morning before we knocked on his door, and guess what? He comes out of the house, and Who comes out with him? Rhonda Lambert. And they get in his truck and they leave. So right then and there, we split and go cut a warrant for his arrest for obstruction of justice. And we go back to get him, and he's not there. So Brad remembered the company name. It was located in Ascension Parish, and we went to the work yard. It was like a piping company or something like that, something to do with the oil refinery industry. And we went there, and sure enough, the truck was there. And when we walked up, he was in like the fab shop area where they're fabricating pipe. And he turned around and he saw me, and his eyes just got bigger than, the deer in the headlights. And I told him, I said, "Turn around, cuz, put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest." And he was like, "What?" And Brad grabbed one side of him, and I grabbed the other one, and we took him into custody and arrested him for obstruction of justice and advised him of his Miranda rights again. And we had to take him in and first book him into the Ascension Parish jail down in Donaldsonville, which it's a long ways away, down across the river, because he was in their parish. And then we had to wait and process him through, and then take him back to Livingston Parish to book him in. But we questioned him. I said, "Listen, man," in an interview, I said, "Listen, why'd you lie to us?" And he said, "What?" He said, "I was coming back from a bar, and I was crossing the bridge, and I saw her walking back from the Livingston Parish side towards the Ascension Parish side." And he said, she waved me down, and he said she was a good-looking girl, so I stopped. And he said, when we went to my house, and she said that she needed a ride and to Mississippi. And he said, "Look, I'm not going to Mississippi." And she said, "Well, I need a place to stay for tonight." And he said, "Okay, well, you can stay at my house. There's nobody there." And she said, "It's fine." He said, and they got to the house, and she jumped on him, but physically in a sexual manner, right? He started kissing him and rubbing him, and he said, and then we had sex. And he said, then the next morning, I saw about the murder on the island, and I realized it was her. And he said, I told her, "You got to get the hell out of my house." And then she was like, "No, you got to take me to Mississippi." And he said, "I'm not taking you to Mississippi." And she called someone in Mississippi, he said, and they agreed to meet in Hammond. And she said, "You take me to Hammond or I'm going to raise hell." And so to get rid of her, he said he drove her to a gas station in Hammond and dropped her off. So anyway, we booked him in on obstruction of justice charge. And anytime there's a major crime, that someone does a major crime, they go on the run. It's been my experience through the years, and you'll hear it time and time again in future episodes. When they go on the run, when they run out of money or their luck runs out, they always go back to a place that's safe to them. And for Rhonda Lambert, that was Brookhaven, Mississippi. And that's where her family was from, etc. So we had entered the arrest warrant for Rhonda Lambert in the NCIC computer, and we called Brookhaven Police Department, or the lead detective on the case called Brookhaven Police Department, and it's kind of a small town. And guess what? That it so happens the chief of police was friends with the Lambert family and known them his whole entire life, as is the case in most small towns. And he agreed to go talk to the family and see what he could find out. In the meantime, we continued to look for cameras and talk to people. And one of the places Brad and I went there was a hair salon right at the end of the road. If you crossing from the canal bank, that crossing over the Diversion Canal Bridge, headed towards Ascension Parish, you can take the left to go to that long straight road that goes back to the island where it's golf carts only. As soon as you make that left, there is a hair salon there. And we stopped in and talked to the ladies in the hair salon, and the lady said, yeah, we know Rhonda. She comes in here and gets her hair done. Matter of fact, she just got it done on Thursday. And she said, I think her husband is a very controlling person. I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, every time she comes to get her hair done or to tan, it was a tanning salon also, she said when Rhonda gets here, she has to call him and tell him that she has arrived. And every time before she leaves, she has to call him and say, okay, I'm leaving now. She said, I just thought that was always strange. And she said she couldn't prove it, but she thought she saw signs of bruising on Rhonda Lambert, etc., from time to time. But she couldn't be positive. She said she just had a bad feeling about her boyfriend or husband or whatever he was. So at this point, it's kind of a waiting game. Of course, we're still looking. We're beating the bushes. We're doing the cop work, the grunt work. And we know, though, that she's gone to Mississippi, but we're looking for any type of witnesses or either one of the crimes. And it was kind of at a standstill. We're waiting to hear back from the chief of police in Mississippi, put out a bolo or be on the lookout for her and the warrant nationwide that she was wanted. And again, this one we had to put should be considered extremely violent. And the autopsy was scheduled for Mr. Perry, where the detectives that first arrived on the scene had to go to the autopsy. And I'm going to stop there for this week. And because there's so much more, y'all, that I have to share on this episode about Rhonda Lambert. In next week's episode, we will conclude Overkill. And I'll tell you what happened for everything from the autopsy to the investigation to the manhunt to the trial and what happens after that. Really, really interesting stuff, and we'll hope you tune in, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And I'm Woody Overton, your host, and we appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you so much.